It was in 1991 that we created Duke Nukem and released it to the world as a side-scroller, and it was a huge hit. Our inspiration back then was comic books because we always felt like if you focus on the character, there's no end of stories.
Duke does it his way, and his way is very entertaining. It's a wild thing.
The original name for the game was actually called Heavy Metal, and the idea was to have sort of an anti-hero who was very much sort of a renegade in society and sort of, you know, an ex-military guy who went rogue. When the original Duke got started, it was myself, Alan Blum, and another programmer, Todd Repogel.
Todd Repogel and I went to school together. We grew up together in Santa Cruz. He started making side-scrollers and stuff, and while I was going to school at UCSC studying computer science, we were working on Duke Nukem 1 together.
There's a guy I'd like to, you know, anytime I have an opportunity, I like to call him out. His name's Alan Blum. And Alan, he created Duke. He and Todd Repogel, back in 1991, 92, created the original 2D side-scrollers of Duke Nukem. And, you know, great fun games. And he's the one guy that from the very first moment of Duke existing, all the way through till today, has been involved in the Duke projects.
It's very childish. So it doesn't take itself seriously, you know. It's, you know, instead of trying to fit a formula or trying to do certain things, it just does stuff you want to do.
Duke Nukem has always been about the character, and you know, we were focused on that at the beginning. It was difficult to bring it out with the side-scrolling simple technology in which, you know, we couldn't have voice work and so on. Actually, the voice started with Duke Nukem 2. At the opening cinematic, he says, "I'm back."
Todd Repogel, the original Duke Nukem programmer, came to me and just asked about doing a voice because he wanted Duke Nukem to sound like, at least then anyway, sounded like a cross between McBain and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those were my instructions, and I just said 2 words. I said, "I'm back." I am back.
The original Duke that Todd and I were working on didn't really work well, and when George joined the company, he actually spent several nights kind of redesigning, you know, and you know, back in those days, it's like, you know, it was EGA and very pixelated stuff, but he gave Duke his little smile and gave it the yellow haircut and everything, and kind of really made the character look the way he still looks today.
What? Did you think I was gone forever?
Too long. We've waited too long, frankly. And I don't know if there's anything that could live up to the idea of 15 years of development, but this is absolutely a worthy successor and a worthy sequel to the game.
I think that this is what fans have wanted to come out, and it's finally come out. I can't be more excited.
If you're a Duke fan, and especially you're one of the fans that hang out on the 3D Realms forums for all that time, refusing to give up, refusing to, you know, give in to the naysayers or whatnot, you're going to have a blast with this because it is a hell of a lot of fun.
We didn't really have any expectation it would hit as big as it did. I mean, you know, obviously when you make these things, you have a lot of passion and a lot of expectations for it, but you know, the way it took off was way beyond our expectations.
Doom was out, and Apogee also had their own Rise of the Triad game, and just a ton of other 3D games like that. So that's where it was decided to take Duke 3D.
Duke Nukem came out right when the industry was transitioning from the sprite-based games, and that would be where everything is actually, even the bad guys, the animated bad guys, were just a flat piece of art. And you know, as you moved around them or they moved around, it would just orient itself differently. And the industry was changing then to true 3D model with Quake. I think, I don't know if it was the first, but that was the big one coming out.
It was decided once we went 3D, you can explode the world a lot larger than it used to be. So the personality and the character and the attitude came through, but even a lot of that wasn't until the end of the game, because as we said earlier, I did the voice of Duke Nukem, I mean just 2 words in Duke Nukem 2. And Duke Nukem was mute through the bulk of the development of Duke 3D. He didn't talk until right at the end when it was decided that, hey, you know, most of these characters don't ever say anything. Why don't we do one with a voice?
I was approached by a casting director in San Diego, where I live, who was in touch with George Broussard. And George wanted a character voice for Duke that would really bring out the anger and the comedy of this character.
Looks like those alien bastards shot up my ride.
The very beginning was, like I said, there was two guys downstairs, which was Alan Blum, Todd Rupogel, and another artist, and they were putting it together. But the artwork was less than the quality they desired. And based on that, that's when George Broussard got together with Todd and Alan and decided that they were going to throw our entire development team, the in-house development team at Apogee and now 3D Realms, at the project. And so it was already underway, and our key was to develop it into something that could be really, really good.
I wanted to get involved with Duke, so I applied at 3D Realms, got a job there, and came down and just had a ball working on it with you know, one of my other co-founders of Gearbox, Randy Pitchford.
I didn't become a professional game maker until the mid-90s. I didn't even imagine that such a thing was possible. It was always a hobby for me. So I looked around and I eventually I got some job offers, and I accepted a job offer in Texas. And I came out to work for a company called 3D Realms. And the first game that I got involved with as a professional game maker was Duke Nukem 3D.
Duke Nukem 3D was the hit that it was because of for multiple reasons. Again, we got to spend most of our time making it fun. We play tested the hell out of it. You know, we played every level over, and every night we would play test the game, which is not typical nowadays.
That was one of the most fun recording experiences I've ever had, doing Duke 3D. The writing on the game, the lines that I had to deliver were outrageous and funny to me. I would say that the recording sessions took perhaps a little longer than they should have, because I had a hard time keeping a straight face reading some of the Duke Nukem lines.
I came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
We would sit around and somebody would have an idea about, oh, it'd be cool if he said this, or it'd be wonderful if he went ahead and shot this Mickey Mouse character, or I shouldn't say Mickey Mouse, a mouse-type character at an amusement park, or something like that, and then say, man, that was annoying.
Almost all of the really good ideas would start, we'd all, like, either the smoke breaks or while we're eating, someone would have a little spark of an idea, and then a second person would add to it, you know, like 5 minutes later, think, oh, you know what else? And then the third person, and once that third person had added their part, the idea was just like, yeah, we got to do that. And as I recall, I'm not sure exactly if I remember correctly, but that was how somebody thought to have this lizard monster drop poop every once in a while, and then we have Duke Nukem, when he steps in it, he'll leave footprints, and then that turned into the footprints that we used quite a bit for stepping in anything.
There was a little bit of the Duke personality in Duke 2, because in Duke 1 and 2, yes, there were characters. There was Duke Nukem and Dr. Proton and things of that nature. But the character, the essence of what made the character what it is now, wasn't so much, it wasn't almost wasn't there at all in the first one. And there was just tidbits of it in the second game.
Come get some.
How much of Duke is in you?
Well, every time I go to the bathroom, I realize that I get about 10 points of health, and I always, you know, much better.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't know precisely what we had with that game. We knew it was good, but there's lots of good games that never take off, and it just took off.
George Broussard and Scott Miller, who were, you know, the owners of Apogee, a publishing company, and 3D Realms, a label that you know, launched Duke 3D. These guys really did a lot to help spawn an industry here in Dallas, and really created the first-person genre.
The combination of violence, not real violence, no one's really getting hurt, the combination of violence and humor, to me, is just, and the Stooges, and I mean, there's a lot of examples of that. I'm not sure why that blend is so good, but particularly for me, I liked it. So I knew all along that the game was going to do well. Oh, I didn't know it was going to do well, but I knew we had a hit.
It's just really nice to see seeds that are planted grow into what it's become. You can't ever expect that, but when it happens, it's magic.
We had a blast. We just had a really good time with it. The question was, what were we going to move on to next? And I think, in my case, I moved on to another game called Shadow Warrior, which came out shortly after that. But Alan and Todd and a few other people, basically they were already delving into the next project, which was Duke Nukem Forever.
People just want to play stuff. And we did Duke 3D and people enjoyed it, and we did the expansion pack and people enjoyed that. And people just want a sequel. They just want to play something.
There were a lot of very smart, talented, capable, and very committed people that were involved. And I think that if there was a very simple problem or decision they could have made, or a simple problem they could fix, or some behavior they could change that would have allowed the game or helped the game ship, that they all would have jumped at that and they would have done that. So I can imagine then that there were a lot of complex, cascading things that contributed to why now Duke Nukem Forever is legendary as the longest development cycle in the history of all video games.
I got into level design with Duke 3D when I was in 6th grade. So I'm a Duke fan. I remember looking at a magazine, looking at screenshots of Duke Nukem Forever and thinking, wow, I have to pre-order this game because it's amazing, and all these years. And I mean, I've been on that ride as same as anybody else.
For me, from my perspective, I'm lucky that I actually enjoy working on the game and doing this stuff. So it wasn't so painful for it being a 10-year project because I was always doing new things, always getting new tech and things like that, so I enjoyed it.
Everybody that was working on the project were all huge fans of Duke, and so we're all really passionate about what we're doing. So, we're all going the extra mile just because we were doing what we loved.
It was kind of this more of a circle where by the time we got some of these levels far enough along that we really liked them, we'd come back to the other ones that we'd worked on earlier, and enough had changed on the gameplay side of things, or another game had come out, and so the standards had changed, and so that original level that was really good a year and a half ago didn't really stand up as much anymore, and we wanted to go back and revisit it. And I don't want to put all the burden on one person, so I'm not going to do that. We were all there, and we all voiced our opinions and desires, but it was a continuous cycle of iteration that didn't have any real end in sight. We didn't have any plan put in front of us in terms of, okay, we're going to iterate to reach this goal. It was just, we're going to iterate, and then it'll eventually be awesome.
It was getting harder and harder for people to believe that it was actually real. But every time that people really started to doubt, a trailer would come out showing off all these great new things. 1997, that trailer came out at E3, and it was great. And people were like, man, this is going to be spectacular.
There was no such thing as a milestone delivery. It was just make it cool, make it awesome. And the funny thing about making cool and awesome things is you can always make it more cool and more awesome. And you'll find that the time just tends to fly by when you're doing that.
That was the E3, God Games, they had, because the E3 space, I guess, was so expensive or whatever, they decided to put their booth in a parking lot across the street from the Los Angeles Convention Center, yeah. And so it was a huge, it just kind of turned this large,
party.
Yeah, party.
I was just as apprehensive about it in 2005 as anybody would be today.
Yeah.
About the project then was as controversial and as long in the tooth as any. And I came to Texas with the idea of like, well, I'll give it a month. and I'll see what happens. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't even get an apartment. I stayed in the hotel they rented for me as long as possible. But within a day, I was in the offices. I had met everybody. I really liked everybody, and I got to sit down and see the game, and I was really impressed. And that's what made me realize it was like, well, all this secondhand, you know, public postulating about how it is, it's not accurate at all.
Yeah,
it was
It doesn't really relate to the same game.
Yeah,
It's almost
yeah.
like there's two separate games. There's the people,
What people
that were
think is going
expecting
on,
the
yeah.
game to be, and then what they think is going on, and then you get there and you see, oh, this is an actual legitimate game. It's fun to play, and all these things. They were like two separate things.
I realized that Duke Nukem was a big hit and a pop culture icon when I started getting these calls from convention coordinators who wanted me to come be a guest. I went, why would you want me to be a guest at your convention? Well, you're the voice of Duke Nukem. Oh, really? That's why you want me? We have fans who want to meet you and get your autograph.
Probably 2007, 3D Realms decides to release a teaser, and because of the relationship that we had with 3D Realms at the time, they actually decided to premiere it at our website. This is a website I had, been running for a long time, and we had scaled up quite a bit, and we had not had problems with traffic in years, and we've been featured on CNN and all these kind of major things, and we've always handled no problem. We put out a trailer, though, for that game, even though it's honestly just brief half-second glimpses of just a few things, and the whole thing came down. It looked great, and it didn't come out. So we kept going through these cycles of like all the way from 97 from that first trailer to 2001 trailer to waiting a long time, 2007 teaser, and every time gamers were blown away with what great stuff there were, and they're like, why will this not come out?
I've always thought the game would eventually come out because there was just too much there, and I'm glad that the Triptych guys here were able to pull it off.
I went and interviewed at 3D Realms kind of on a whim, wondering what the game was about, and it was awesome, like even back then. Like when I saw it for the first time, there were things in the game that nobody else was doing. And so I had a talk with George, and he convinced me to come over as a designer, and then I moved to Dallas with Kristen, and we worked on the game for 4.5 years until the dreaded day, which was in May of 2009 when 3D Realms shut its doors on the project.
I was talking to, I'm sure other people had offered this as well, but I was talking to our programmer, Rob, and was saying, if you want to work on it in our spare time, I'm willing to do that with you. If you want to do it, it's just a tragedy that this game will never come out, And then, around that time, David Regal was going around talking to people, and so we were already interested anyway, so it kind of all fell into place.
We had like 3 or 4 meetings with all the people who were really serious about forming the company. And the last one was in June of 2009. And just by coincidence, when we brought everybody to the house, that was the same night that we did have tornado warnings. So we were essentially forced to sit around in our living room for about 2 hours and talk about the company and the game. And I think, maybe if people hadn't been forced to sit in and wait, that maybe we wouldn't have talked about as much or convinced them.
There were a few meetings off-site, but pretty much our house became the center of everything.
It was actually the most exciting time in my career, which is odd. I mean, usually you don't think you'd think that. I mean, I wasn't getting paid. I was working a ton of hours, and but it was all because we were working towards the same thing. We were all on the same page. We wanted to finish Duke.
I did a lot of work on the weekends and stuff. I like doing various things. I concepted up a lot of the stuff that's in the game now, like Monster Truck I did on the weekends, pool tables I did on the weekends, air hockey I did on the weekends, and I just enjoy it. So for me, from my perspective, I'm lucky that I actually enjoy working on the game and doing this stuff.
You hear a lot of stories about game companies starting in somebody's living room, with a project that nobody had heard of, and it really takes, once it's announced, it goes, viral or whatever you whatever you want to say. And that's pretty much how it was. I mean, we were working crazy hours, we're getting on each other's nerves, starting to stink up the house and all that junk. But, we were all really focused because we were going to be the ones that brought Duke back.
My studio and I purchased the brand, and we've taken over responsibility for shipping this game. And because we have the franchise now, we'll care about Duke's future. And so from that point of view, I'm ultimately accountable for everything that happens with Duke. However, my commitment with Duke Forever is to make sure that the game that we all are playing is the game that 3D Realms was building. It's their vision. It's the game that we've all been denied for so many years. This is the game that we need to play. And it's good stuff.
Looks like those alien bastards drank all my beer.
I'm very happy the way things worked out because I think Gearbox is an excellent keeper of the franchise. I think they're going to do just an amazing job going forward. But somehow, some way, the game would have come out at some point.
I feel the obligation to deliver and the pressure to make sure that what's delivered is worthy. On the other hand, I feel huge amounts of catharsis and a tremendous amount of honor and humility that I get to be a part of it, because there's nothing in the industry like it. I mean, there's just been there's no greater example of unresolved deep tension in the history of the video games than this. So it's pretty wild to be here.
This is taking forever. Time to stop pissing around and get this big guy back into action.
It's definitely going to be old school, true to Duke.
You think so? I don't know if it's going to be worth it, really.
What do you do around here anyway?
Yeah. I think Duke occupies a really unique niche in gaming because most games are either really over-the-top serious or they're a little bit slapstick with comedy and a little bit stylized and so forth. I think Duke is really more of an action comedy, which really doesn't exist in games anymore.
I'm from Las Vegas, and I say kill 'em all.
Duke is awesome because, he saves the Earth, and he's done it a couple times now, and he saves the babes, which is his primary motivation. What's not to like about that? The guy's kick ass.
Now this guy is actually unique, and now people care because of that. Now they're like, what? Why is there nothing like this anymore? Why is there not a guy who can just go around blowing shit up, and seeing some titties? Why is there not something just fun and simple like that? Why do games have to be so like this? Why does the main character have to have all these problems? I'm like, I've got emotional problems, and I got this ridiculous, complicated history. Why can't the guy just be a badass?
I think, it's very different than anything that's out there. It's less serious, it's more fun, you're not going to find anything else out there like it.
It will have the humor and the attitude that you expect. That will be its defining characteristic.
It's definitely going to be the Duke you love. Mm-hmm. No apologies there.
It's different than games that are out there, and it's classic Duke Nukem.
This is the game you're waiting for. And we've showed it to the public already, and that is the response that we received, so we're feeling really confident about that.
Nothing in this world happens without people. And the more difficult the challenge or impossible it is to see and reach that finish line, then the more it must be because of the passion and commitment of the people involved that it ever gets there. And this is one of those extreme edge cases, let me tell you. I don't think anything could ever do justice to the guys that have worked the hardest on it.
My name's Alan Blum, working on Duke Nukem Forever.
My name is David Regal. I'm head of Triptych Games.
I'm Kristen Hagland, and I am the managing partner of Triptych Games.
My name is Benjamin Wagley, and I'm an animator.
Hi, I'm Joe Sigler. I'm the Duke Nukem Community Manager for Gearbox Software.
My name is John St. John, and back in 1995, I was cast as the voice of Duke Nukem.
I'm Charlie Wiederhold. I was a level designer, programmer, producer on Duke Nukem Forever from 1998 till 2006.
I'm Richard Gray, also known as the Level Lord. I used to be a level designer making 3D action games, including Duke Nukem 3D.
Brian Cousins, Minister of Art.
I'm Stephen Cole. I'm a visual designer here at Gearbox Software.
My name is Stephen Hornback. I was the lead artist for Duke 3D.
My name is Chris DeSimone, and I'm a CG artist.
My name's Andrew Baker. I'm a level designer on Duke Nukem Forever.
My name is Brad Jacobs. I'm a level designer on Duke Nukem Forever.
Andrew Kirshner. I'm an environment artist.
Hi, I'm Aaron Tebow. I'm the Vice President of Product Development here at Gearbox Software.
Hello, I'm Keith Schuler. I was level designer on Duke Nukem Forever.
Hi, my name is John Anderson. I was a level designer on Duke Nukem Forever.
My name is Richard Hunick, and I was a game designer for 3D Realms.
My name is Eric Von Rothkirch, and I'm the audio director for Triptych Games.
My name is David Eddings. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Licensing here at Gearbox Software.
Hi, I'm Brian Martell. I'm one of the co-founders of Gearbox Software, and I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Gearbox.
My name is Mike Wardwell, and I'm the producer of Duke Nukem Forever.
I'm Scott Miller. I'm co-founder of the company 3D Realms that first created Duke Nukem.
I'm Randy Pitchford. I'm the president of Gearbox Software, executive producer of Duke Nukem Forever. And because of crazy people like me and the team, people with balls of steel, Duke Forever's finally going to ship.
That's all you really need is explosions and tits, and then you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. That's a quote.
I'm so glad you're okay.
All right, time for my reward.